Okay, I'm loving this week. The intro is glitchy. I'm gonna try it one more time. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it plays this time. And welcome everyone to another exciting adventure on Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael. And tonight's guest is a guest that I feel like is bringing a topic to light that we've kind of hinted around on this show. So I'm really excited to bring her on to share her insight and everything. And I know she has a lot of information to share with us. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time reading her bio because it is exciting, but I feel like she is more than what's presented there. So I'm going to turn it over to my awesome and amazing and incredible guest, the one, the only, insight extraordinaire, Jennifer Nunez.
Thank you, Michael. That was an awesome introduction. And I got to say, I'm very impressed with your intro. That was really well done. So thank you for having me on your show.
Yes,
And
thank you. And my cousin did my intro.
it's really good. I like it. Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Hello, everyone who's tuning in the live and also the replay. I will try to not spend too much on my bio, but you were correct in saying that I have a extensive knowledge in a lot of different areas. For anyone who is into human design, if you've ever looked into that, I'm a human design reader. I am a 5/1 emotional manifester. And the one line is the investigating and foundational setting line of the collective, pretty much. And so I love deep diving in multiple different topics in multiple different areas as well. So I'm definitely here to create an impact and also create something for the collective. That's what my mission here is. And so I spent a lot of time just as like everyone else, like, what is your purpose? And my spiritual team, my higher guidance has repeatedly shown me what mine is, and it's to help the collective really build a solid foundation. And so with that said, I am a serial entrepreneur. I own a couple of different businesses, but my main business is Rise University, which is an esoteric mystery school for spiritual entrepreneurs, light warriors, those who are here to really create a change in what's happening in the world. And it's like I was telling Michael, it's very synchronistic because I just released a 3-part training that I'm going to talk about on this podcast recently, and it is kind of tied into like what the world is discovering what's happening in the world, the truth about things coming to light. And, you know, I've always been very drawn to the esoteric. Um, I had, I have a background of, we can dive into topics like super soldiers or along that line. And I believe that I was in a project at a young age, and my handler, who I call, was very drawn into the esoteric. He's the one that introduced me to that world. So some of the teachings that I'm going to be talking about on this podcast did maybe stem from that, but I think it is important that we talk about how manifestation happens and how we can kind of take our sovereignty back and our power back based on that. So I'll get into that topic here in a moment, but I'm headmistress of Rise University. That is an esoteric school. Scole, actually, not school. Scole is the Greek term for leisure learning. I feel like we as a humanity have been pressurized and put into a time constraint, and everyone's in a rush. And this is why we don't know what's happening. We can't see the magic in the moment because everyone's worried about tomorrow or what happened in the past. Hey, honey. So with that said, I want to bring back that slowing down, not being in a rush, and taking time to absorb information because there is a lot. So I classify myself or call myself the techie shaman. Rise University is the esoteric school. It's where I teach a lot of foundational principles, alchemy work, tapping into ritual work. Rise actually stands for ritual, initiation, sovereignty, and embodiment. So we need all of those to really step into who we are and create a better world, because right now the one we're in is burning to the ground. Outside of that, I own another business which is called Unity Works Agency. And that is where I help solopreneurs build websites, landing pages, graphic design, copywriting, all sorts of like VAs, assistants, all the mechanical business stuff that you may possibly need. And both kind of took off at the same time. So I've kind of integrated them together. Outside of that, I have been independent. I got laid off from the 3D Matrix in 2019, right before the big C happened. Never looked back. Don't want to look back. I like being independent, and I want to help other people learn how to do the same. So I'm going to kind of talk to you guys about how to do that.
That is very cool, and I love how you put the big C, because that's got a whole new connotation now. I love it. That is great.
I don't know what else to call it. Like at this point, I don't know what's censored, what's not. It's been a moment that I've actually, I used to be online all the time, and then I kind of took a step back.
Yeah,
So,
no, sometimes you need to. And before we really get into the topics, you mentioned something that really piqued my interest. Actually, a few things, but this one in particular. You talked about being a human design reader.
mhm.
What exactly do you mean by that, and what is a human design reader?
Okay. So most people know astrology. They know their big three in astrology, what their sun sign is, rising sign, and moon sign. Human design takes it a step deeper. It incorporates astrology, the chakra system, the Kabbalah system, Jungian psychology, and the I Ching. Okay, so basically what human design tells you is the model vehicle your soul is driving around in. Okay. We have all been taught that we are the same, and that is not true. If we take a step back and look at the animal kingdom, okay, there is a structure that happens naturally. In ants, for example, you have the queen, you have the ones that are around the queen that help guide, you have the little workers, and then you have another set that no one really knows what they do. We as humans have the same thing. And so what human design does is it tells you who you who you are on a genetic standpoint. And the like I mentioned to you earlier, I had a YouTube channel that got taken down, and that was done with a friend of mine who was also my mentor in human design. We did human design readings of famous people in the collective. And so like what I said, I'm a manifester. Manifestors are 9% of the population. It's a very rare type. We're here to make and we impact, we initiate things to get things going. And there's 4 different types when it comes to human design. So you have manifestors, you have generators and manifesting generators. There's still a generator, reflectors, and projectors. And so it's just kind of finding out what your type is. It'll tell you how to navigate through life in a better way. It tells you all sorts of things, how you to digest, how you need to sleep. It answers the questions that you internally ask yourself of, why do I do that? I'll get an example with me. Sometimes when you're communicating with someone, you may be oversharing, over talking, and you're asking yourself, why the hell can I not shut up right now? But it just keeps flowing out. Well, human design, if we look at it, will tell you that. It's pretty amazing. I'll have to send you some information, but I incorporated a lot. I study astrology and I study human design. And so I incorporated a lot into my teachings of, just bringing the awareness that this is another tool that you can utilize to help you navigate your life better. But again, it's very complex to a point, but there's a lot of information. And the best way to witness it is in the moment. So there are things that I will do and I'm like, okay, I can see that's a human design thing. And again, it goes back to your genetics.
That's really interesting, and that's on a whole nother level. So I'm
we could do a whole other show on that.
I know, and I'm curious. I have a twofold question for you. One part of it is, what was the aha moment where you got the spark that said, "Oh, if we combine all of this, look at what we can truly see now about each other." And the second part of it is, mentioning the super soldier programs and stuff. Do you think your awareness of this kind of stems from being in the programs where the mind is expanded?
Probably, yes, I can. On the second one, the first part, the way that I look at human design and astrology is as above. We know that the planets are obviously in their movement influencing us on a biological level. Ask any first responder, go to a hospital, ask any teacher on a full moon what happens. Human design, when you break down the charts, you can tie in where the planets are hitting in what's called gates in your chart, and would really love to do a separate podcast on this, but I'll break it down as so. Either way, astrology is as above, human design is as below, and it will show you how that's influencing you. And my whole life for over a year now, everything is incorporated into my astrology chart. So my marketing, how I post, the rituals that I perform on a daily basis, whatever it is that I'm working on is all tied into an elemental function based on astrology. And I tie that into my human design. So because the collective right now, only 50% are what's called emotional beings. I have an emotional authority, which means I experience emotional waves. The past couple of days, since things have been released and stuff has come up to the surface, I have woken up funky. If I did not know my human design and I did not look at it, I would start to associate that something outside of me is making me funky. I'm melancholy. Why am I crying? Like, and then I start trying, I get all up in my mind, which is like, oh, this is happening because this happened or whatever. I could just be picking up on the collective emotions. And those are the moments that I either need to get outside, I do my flow dance, go for a walk to just allow that energy to flow through me and not attach myself to it. Because all energy that's happening right now is coming from neutrino oceans. It's things that we can't really see. It's not necessarily us. It's just that it has to flow through us to collect data, so to say. And whatever data it's collecting can be shown through human design. I hope
So
that makes sense.
it does, and I'm curious as I'm loving how your camera is like losing focus as you're talking. But
Just so I can feel my energy raise up.
a lot of people are watching the Schumann resonance right now and its effect. Do you, as you're doing this work, do you look and encompass the Schumann resonance into it and take that into effect, or
You
do you
can,
view that as secondary?
it's secondary. You can, um, because human design on a scientific level, like it came online. It was a channeled from a guy named Ra who brought it online in the 90s. So it's fairly new, but it has gotten attention scientifically. Like they are outside of, I believe astrology should definitely come into the mix, but they are still saying that pseudoscience. Um Human design is. And what it's really reading is the neutrino ocean that is flowing through us through the sun and the planets. And so when the Schumann sparks, when we have these flares that come off, yes, it's definitely going to impact us. But that's just like another layer deep that you would just have to add. My starting off anyone in human design is find out what your type is and start paying attention to what your strategy and your authority is. Your authority is going to be your compass. It is your inner guiding system. It's going to tell you yes, no. But most people, they don't listen to their intuition. They don't listen to what their body is telling them. And that's the thing that I love about human design. This does not know a damn fucking thing, really. It's going to be your best friend and your worst enemy. So you can't quite trust this, and you can't quite trust it right now because I'm someone who does a lot of meditating and paying attention to her thoughts. And outside of getting blasted by solar flares, they're spraying our skies. We're in a frequency war. We've got MK Ultra going on. This is not going to know that much, but your body is always going to know. And you know this when you walk into a room and you know something's off. Or that little
Exactly.
voice told you something and you didn't listen to it. And then you're like, damn, I should have listened.
Yeah, exactly. And so I have a really interesting hypothetical question for you. Or I shouldn't say hypothetical, theoretical more. And that is, you're talking about the neutrino waves. So we all know that has to do with stars. And so you get a hybrid who has potentially been in programs of, the secret covert nature, not black ops. I'm talking the secret space programs, MK Ultra, all those. How does that affect their, image, and or does it?
To be honest, I do not fully know. Um, I am, my one line is currently going through its investigation where it is kind of collecting similar data on that. I'm looking at more where hijacking, archons, um, affecting your chakra system could possibly come through in the human design or looking at the chart. Uh, so I haven't. That is something I'm currently investigating. It's a very interesting question. I just don't have an answer for that at the moment. Um, because there's, looking at a human design chart, uh, there's a lot of things that could be happening in the moment. I've never had any off planet that I know of or memories that I remember. However, I was put into another different type of program that I had to break, and that was in 2018.
So following the human design aspect and everything, is that where you kind of got clued into the three forms of magic and how people get stuck around that, or how
Yeah.
did that get started?
Okay. So let me talk about the three forms of magic and what exactly that is, because it's important. We are actually witnessing, this is the type of magic that they have used to entrap humanity. And when I say magic, I am using the spelling with a K. There's a difference between the C and the K, and the C is, magic cards, pulling a rabbit out of the hat. This type of magic, and it's for creation to happen when we're manifesting. It is the three things that need to exist in this realm for creation to happen. If for anyone who does not know how manifestation happens, it is when a thought comes in, you're thinking about things, you are impressing that thought with visualization and emotion into your subconscious, and you are speaking it into existence. Now, when it comes into existence or having it come into existence, there are so many different universal laws at play, that you need to keep in mind. If you don't know what the universal laws are, you can Google search them or go read the Kabbalion. It's a really good book to start with. So the three forms of magic you need, which are white magic, which is always going to be your intention. That is the one thing that everyone knows when they're manifesting. They're always putting down their intention. But the other two you need as well, and this is why they use it, and that is the black magic and the red magic, which is, some people call blood magic or the sacrifice magic. And when I say that, some people are like taboo. But let me give you a scenario of how I incorporate astrology or human design into this. And you don't need to have astrology or human design, but your black magic realm, what is keeping your manifestations to appear in the reality, is your shadow. Okay. If you are wanting to, let's say, let me give an example. Money. People want to manifest money. And a lot of times their intention, I see a lot, is we're going to manifest $1 million. But you grew up in a poverty mindset. Your bank account is showing $5 right now. everything inside of your being, your nervous system, your everything is saying, fuck no, bitch, you can't manifest that $1,000,000. But you're not going to face that. You're not going to look in that black magic, that shadow realm of what is actually keeping you stuck. And everyone has trauma, everyone has shadow, everyone has limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome, whatever it is. That is the biggest realm that you need to look at. The red magic is the sacrifice. What are you going to give back? The way that I like to reference this is dieting. You're going to have the intention of losing 10 pounds. But, when it's time to go to the gym, you don't want to get out of bed. You're not going to hold yourself responsible. You're going to give yourself every excuse of why not going to the gym is going to be that shadow black magic realm. And at the same time, you're eating the donut. All right. You're not sacrificing it. You're not letting it go. You're not replacing it. Or you're not telling the divine or the universe that when this comes in, when you lose that 10 pounds, you're going to give something back for it. Okay. So that's where that red magic comes in. And the other side uses the same forms. This is where the triangle comes in. Okay. It's not just that you need the three is very significant in many different cultures, but it's the intention of what they want, the black magic. And these people can't, the ones that we are discovering coming up to the surface now, can't create. Okay. They need to prey on our energy to have their creation come into effect. So what are they doing? They are creating a scenario for you to have all those shadows. My mom, like the 3 jobs, clipping coupons, $100 was like, 10,000. It was a big fucking deal. When I looked into, when all this came together, I had to look at my, I had to honestly look at my bank account and why I was struggling in my business and why I was burning myself out. And that was because I was not honoring my prices. I had imposter syndrome. I had fear of success. I had a glass ceiling that if I got successful, the government was going to come after me. All this stuff in the black magic realm. And so that was all created too. They created a scenario outside of us for those shadows to come up, and they still continue to do it. I'm interested to see how many people this year are not going to pay their taxes. Seriously, no one should be paying taxes to what we found out is ruling the world, especially in this country. But guess what? People will. And you know why? Because they've created a scenario designed to instill fear. And that fear is that black magic realm that no one wants to look at. They're going to go ahead and they're going to sacrifice their morals. Deep down, they know what they're witnessing is wrong, but they're going to sacrifice their morals out of fear to do something. And of course, we know what else they do in the red magic realm. I'm not going to go into that. I don't teach any of that. All of my 3 forms of magic has everything to do with you, what you need to face. And how I implement this in my life is Rise University. So the foundation, so the root solution, what I'm talking about now is a 3-part master class, 3-part training that's free. Any of your listeners want it, they can join. I would be honored to have them. It's jam-packed, filled with information. I have a hard time kind of not over delivering it, but it is a free foundational course. And the next level is into the Earth Keepers Guild, which is our monthly membership. And Rise University is a private members association. So that's how we, there's a puts you in a different jurisdiction, legalities and taxes and everything when you do that. And so that's why we have a monthly membership. But it's $55 a month, and I don't get any of it. I don't get none of it. Any student that comes in has the potential to get up to 80% of the commission, reoccurring, lifetime. So the biggest thing that I struggled with was, trying to step into your mission. A lot of people have to work. They're not working just 40 hours. People have to have 2 jobs now to survive. And so they don't have the time, or they can't afford to really step into their purpose. So solved. Here you go. You come in. I'm going to give you the potential to create an income for yourself. That also will help you start to step past your shadows, your insecurities. Getting online and speaking your truth is a big deal. Learning new things is a big deal. There's all sorts of things that come up that in that process. And so I created a container to help you do that. And then the other portion of the income either goes to my team that helps me run it. And we also have a cause called Rise for Rescue that helps animals find, people find their familiars, and animals find their forever homes. But right off the bat, I am giving back that red magic to the community because I'm here to help you grow. Outside of that, where my income comes from, that structure is all inside within the community. And when I embraced that in my business, a lot of things shifted. So like doors started opening up, people just started coming in, and I can see the divine coming in and, supporting me in that aspect.
And I get a sense of, because I grew up with choosing the metaphysical path instead of dogmatic path. As I'm hearing you describe the 3 different paths, it's like the first part is the self, which that's the same for everything. But the second part, as what you're calling the black magic, is what we would call shadow work.
It is shadow work.
And then the red magic is what we would call the exchange, the energy exchange. Mm-hmm. And so I always find it interesting how everybody thinks everything is so divided. But then when you sit down and you look at stuff and you go, wait a minute, this is sounding really familiar, really taking it in and going, wait, they're talking about this. Okay, so this isn't so different. I can work with that. I can get behind that, because I feel like a lot of people, when you say, oh, black magic, they're like, their first thought is, okay, this is curses. This is
exactly
dark side. And it's like, I'm supposed to be doing the light, so I'm not touching dark magic, so I'm not going to do this.
But even that needs to be embraced, because there are a lot of light warriors, light workers out there that you can't talk about these things. And you need to.
Yeah. I've kind of taken the opinion of, for so long we lived in the world where we were either this or this. There was no balance between the two. And I started thinking about, how do you get balanced? And I had this vision like pop in my head of the shadow. The shadow is our true balance. Mm-hmm. And when I was like thinking about it, I was like, the shadow can't be balanced. And I was like, wait a minute. The shadow side lives in the dark, but we can see it because it has enough light to offset it from the darkness. So it has both light and dark. So it is therefore our balanced self.
Mm-hmm. It is. And as much as, that realm, diving into just doing shadow work, and I don't encourage anyone to, there's a period of when you are going and doing your shadow work, you can do it too much, spend too much time. I think a lot of our core missions outside of, like, stepping into a purpose, doing a building something online or whatever, our main purpose is to heal. And there's a lot to heal from. And, it's not by our own creation, but how we react to it is. That is what we are responsible for. Um, and you won't know how you're reacting to things until you're really mindful in the moment and just paying attention to, like, what's coming up. And the one thing that I do like, why I incorporate human design into that, is because some of the stuff that is coming up
Come on,
in
Michael.
in your life, or oh, there you are. Did I freeze?
No, actually, it's what's kind of ironic to some people, but we're used to is as you were describing that, my computer automatically goes, "You have no internet." And so I had to reconnect the modem. So I was like, yeah, somebody doesn't want this coming out.
Well, it's the shadow realm. Um, it's where you're going to have the majority of your transformation, and it's it's important that we take a deeper look at it. I'm just My point in what I was saying earlier is that, it's not all you either. There are some things that I have uncovered in my human design where I am like, oh, that's just a genetic thing. You know, our genes react to things in a specific way, and going back to universal law, there is a duality. If anyone who studied the I Ching, it's amazing because, to have one side of the spectrum, you have to have the other. And when you are looking in the shadow realm, as soon as you shed a light on something, it's a little bit different. It doesn't mean that you may react, or, when a scenario comes up in your life, you're not going to immediately change now that you saw it, but it's going to be easier for you to recognize when it does come into play. And I see a lot of people out there with manifestation courses and working with the law of attraction. And I did too. And I think they're really great trainings. But if you're not aware of what your shadows are, where you're cock blocking yourself, you're going to keep getting frustrated or angry or whatever and say, this doesn't work. Well, I did that for years.
You actually have given me a possible insight into something that I've thought I understood and had a good grasp on, and that is the concept of the dark night of the soul. I viewed it as and started understanding it as your shadow side is saying, hey, you need to look at this. We can't go forward until you face this. And since you're resisting it so much, we're going to force you to do it because this is for your better good. And that's why it's so like everyone is so resistant to it. But in hearing you talking about that, and admittedly, I missed some. So if I copy something about it, it's I just didn't hear it, and so I apologize if I repeat. But I'm starting to think too that it's as you were saying, the shadow side is going deeper and being designed. Could the dark night be we're going too much into the shadow? We're going too overwhelming ourselves because we're trying to get through it quick and going, oh, I can knock this, and this shadow out. And the shadow side goes, whoa, you need to take this one at a time. You can't do all three at once. And since you did, we're going to dark night you.
I have an example of that. And this is why I say we need to just be mindful when we're going through that realm. I have Saturn in Virgo in the eighth house. Okay. So massive, massive perfectionism to the point that I can get perfectionism and routine about how I'm doing my shadow work. Very rigid. I have a mentor that did a video about what perfectionism is. And really, and when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, I'm using a shadow to overshadow my shadow work. And what perfectionism is somewhere along the line in our journey, when we were younger, we went to just go do something. It could be a drawing, it could be playing, and an adult or someone older than us came in and said, "You're not doing it right. It needs to be done this way," which then kills creation. Okay. And that is the divine. The divine energy is creation in itself, that you can see it through children. And so that one scenario got embedded into your subconscious to protect you from doing it. And I grew up in an environment where a lot of what I did was always, there was always being reprimanded or corrected. This was wrong. I need to do it this way. And so that's where my perfectionism came in. And it wasn't until I put two and two together that I realized that I was allowing one shadow to be very fine tuned and being a perfectionist with my shadow work and how I was doing it. And I was like, okay, I need to look at that shadow and exactly why that came into play, because a lot of our shadows at some point in our journey when we were young, they served us. They were protecting us from something that was happening. It was a defense mechanism, and it doesn't mean that it serves you anymore. And it's just as soon as you address it and you work through it, then we can transmute it and go on to the next thing. This is why I incorporate ritual work in and go through meditations, working with the subconscious and allowing the energy to help me release it. So I'm not getting trapped into solely focusing on that, doing the shadow work. But it is important that we do the shadow work, or just be mindful of what exactly is coming up, how we're feeling, and what is our safety mechanisms. Okay, this is where you get into learning about your nervous system. What are your responses? Is it fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? I go a lot into that inside of the root solution, because that's going to make you aware of where shadows may come into play. It's a lot of work, and it's not anything that you're going to tackle overnight. I think this is a lifelong journey, but just by me approaching this, I've been able to change my manifestations. My clients have been able to change their manifestations. And it's just looking at how we are creating as a whole, and where you may be self-sabotaging yourself. So,
Yeah. And what's interesting is you kind of caught my attention when you said the fawn mode. I was like, what exactly is the fawn mode?
people pleasing.
Oh, okay.
I
I
had
was
that.
like, okay. I had never heard it referred to as a fawn mode. And so I'm trying to picture this little fawn trying to jump or something. I'm like,
Well,
okay.
it's where you will go above and beyond to walk on eggshells. So that's what I learned with my handler, my abuser. And majority of my relationships were narcissistic, just nasty reptilian men. And so I would do things to keep the peace, become a people pleaser, walk on eggshells.
Oh,
um,
I'm guilty of that.
and all sorts of different forms. Like I thought it wasn't until I got, my last relationship ended years ago, and I was like, I'm just going to date myself for a while to get to know me. And before in relationships, I was one that was always, cooked everything, Susie homemaker, the house was immaculate, I was always in the kitchen. And when I was single for a while, I realized that I don't like to do that. The only reason I was doing that was because that is what kept the peace. And because I was a perfectionism, it was always overboard and I burnt myself out doing it. But I thought that that was my identity for the longest time. And it wasn't until I was single and I really started digging into that realm, I was like, no, I was only doing that because that's what was kept the peace in the house. That's what I didn't have to argue or whatever chaotic stuff was going on. Um, but again, I also grew up in a family where the women did that. It was always catering to the men and feeding, Southern families. So everything's about eating.
Well, and I hate to say it, but I think the TV of the 50s, I think that was MK Ultra to its maximum because
Yes.
it ingrained the male role and female role, and no one's been able to shift out of that really because everyone's like, oh no, I'm the woman. I'm supposed to be at home doing this. And I'm like, says who? And it's like, people are shocked when you go against that grain. And it's like, yeah, no, nobody says you have to do that. And it's like, yeah, and it makes me, question, when we think some of this is new and coming, to light new, that how much we saw growing up really imprinted on us and didn't imprint on us the truth of what was going on in the world. It imprinted the illusion.
Yes, and a lot of us right now, I've had so many conversations with people behind the scenes, and mind you, I I had a divine experience in 2018. I still don't know exactly what it is. It could be a Kundalini awakening. It could be, I feel like I was unplugged from the Matrix, but that can be a total separate show. But either way, that blasted me wide open to a lot of things. And at the time, I was in a relationship, and he introduced me to Zeitgeist and what was really happening on the political side. So I've been aware of these things. I have been more spiritually tied outside of like the government structures, but just like having conversations with people, they don't know what's real, what's a program, who they truly are. And I think that's part of the design. And I don't, I have taken the time to just get to know me and love all aspects of myself. Um, and that's not easy to do. A lot of people, I mean, how much you love yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror. Like, what do you tell yourself? Do you critique? Can this be better or whatever? Um, they've all designed it that way. And so much
Yeah.
is coming to light. And I'm even having moments through this process that I've had to breathe. Like, I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. You feel like I'm having another awakening. And as of right now, when we were going through it, it's like we could take time to go through it. And now everything is in your face.
Yeah. And I don't know your stance on what's happened recently, but a lot of things I've been listening to and kind of resonating with is everybody was concerned when the 3i Atlas came by, and they were like, oh, we're either going to be attacked or what is its real mission here? Everybody was like focused on it. But the one thing that I don't think anyone really noticed, but a few people that I was watching, was we shifted when it arrived. Our awareness shifted, our time shifted. So we used to say like, oh, wow, it's already September. Where did the time go? And you would kind of like laugh about it. But now we're like, oh my God, it's middle February. It feels like we just had January 1st and time is in like super mode. And we are, you either process it or it'll smack you in the face and then you'll process it, but there's no escaping that factor now.
They've definitely done something with time. That's why I like the Skull Lake, because I'm not what used to take me a day now takes me a week. And again, I could beat myself up for that, but I'm just going along with it right now. Like, I'm doing the best that I can because time has sped up.
I personally, I don't mean to interrupt, but because I know, especially as I told you, I don't do that, and here I am doing it. But there's a point I want to make, and that is, time didn't like speed up to like mess with us. I think time sped up to show us our divine time, and so what we don't get done. Like you're saying, oh, I used to do this in a day, now it takes me a week. We're more in a zone of, so what? It happens when it's supposed to happen. It unfolds as it's meant to unfold, and we're peeling off our pressure of, I did this in a day, I always got to do this in a day, or I normally by now I'm like contacting all of my shows for next month, getting ready, and I'm like, I haven't even contacted a single one of them yet. And I'm like, and normally that would have me stressed out, but I'm like, you know what? I have this weekend, I have a couple of weekends, I have some time in the week. I'll just reach out, and they'll happen. And if they don't, I have, I can get maybe somebody else to fill in because get something happen. And it's like, I'm already in mind 3 steps ahead of where I normally would be. But in actual timing, I'm like, you would think I'm actually behind because I haven't started.
Right, but that's all perception in itself. I can see that happening. To be honest, my spiritual team said don't have anything to do with 3i Atlas. So I don't know a damn thing about it. Did not pay attention to it. I was told not to tune in, and I listened to my higher guidance.
I'm not saying 3i Atlas was the cause. I was just saying that was like the focal point that.
Right. But what I was going to say after that was that I do know astrologically there are a lot of things that transitions that happen too. So I don't dismiss anything at this point in the journey.
Well, and what's interesting is, like, astrologically, according to the Chinese New Year, we're going into the year of the horse. But this year is not just any horse, it's the fire horse. And it's like, I started thinking to myself, what is like, why, I don't, I get, that there's different energies and everything. And so they're accounting for that. But I'm like, why can't it just be the year of the horse? Why has it got to be a fire horse? And why, and then I found myself going, it's really cool that I'm not just the horse this year, that I'm the fire horse this year. And it's like, I get both sides, and it's like, it's so funny because I'm like, yeah, I get that this year is going to be different, but yet it's still a year.
Yes. Well, it does play a part. I'm very good at pattern recognition, and they use numerology a lot. So it is a 1 year, and it is a fire horse year. Horse. I say horse too. Um, so lots of changes have happened with those two scenarios. I like seeing repeat things. So it'll be interesting. I think everything's aligning up perfectly. We're just gonna have to see where this show is taking us. Um, I don't quite agree with everything that's happening collectively, but
And
I do know we're here for a massive change.
and talking about change, there is one factor that I've noticed that people don't understand how it's happening, but and they're naturally doing it, but they're not understanding how they're naturally doing that. And that is the alchemy that goes and is the catalyst that brings about the change. Because everybody sits there and if you say to somebody, oh, so, that alchemy is working for you, you're really alchemizing this change. And they'll go, I'm not turning lead into gold. I'm not messing with, this or that. I'm like, what makes you think that's the only form of alchemy? And nobody ever thinks about the energetic alchemy.
Yeah. Well, after the root solution, when you get inside of Rise University, I have the Roots Before Wings course, which talks about that. If you actually becoming the magician and paying attention to what's happening in the four quadrants of your life: physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. That is where you're going to turn the lead into gold. Maybe not um, to the point where it's physical. Haven't quite done that yet. However, you can say that I can say I have done that. We'll take this. Here's a manifestation thing that I had to do. Shadow work I had to do around that to create it. Um, money. Money right now, everyone is witnessing the fiat system that is fake as fuck crash. So we're going to have monopoly money, and you take that monopoly money and you turn it into something. So that's what I do. I take and turn it into silver. So taking something out of nothing and buying something that's tangible. That's alchemy right there. But it's just as simple as that. Um, but
Right. And
I would have never done that. The old me would have never done that because, I was too worried about what was in my bank account and shadow work and poverty mindset.
right. And I'm curious too, as with alchemy, there's this one form of alchemy that I've noticed everybody gets around and always focuses on the dark connotation around it, and that is the philosopher's stone. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, everything I've seen referenced about it, and I don't understand this, is you have to sacrifice a lot of people to bring about this stone that has the power to resurrect a life and bring it back. And I'm like, I don't know that that's, what they're really talking about with the Philosopher's Stone, but that's the information that's kind of taken over and become the precipice of whenever somebody hears it, like, oh, yeah, you got to sacrifice this huge amount and it may or may not work. And you could end up creating something worse. And it's like,
I personally have not gone, I have not heard that. However, you're using the red magic. You just, in that one scenario, you explain the three forms of magic. But I would say that is probably, I mean, whoever initiated that idea out into the collective to start with was probably not willing to sacrifice his own things. He wasn't willing to give the donut up, so to say, nor was he willing to even look at his own crap. And
Why are we
so it's
picking on the
going,
donut?
it's that man. I just
Like,
say that because
man,
like people want to lose weight, but yet they don't want to put down what's not good for them. And
yeah.
I get it. I'm not judging. No judgment here because I will eat the donuts.
I know, like a donut every once in a while is okay. But man, I'm like, we're sitting here dogging the donut every chance, and I'm like, the donut's not the bad thing.
But you get my point.
I
So,
do.
um,
And since we're in this laughter moment, I'll point out we are at the hour, and so I know you got to be up early, and you got a lot going on. Do you need to go, or do you have time
no,
for
I
a
don't
few more?
particularly need to go. Like, if anyone has any questions or you want to ask any more questions, I can stay on for a couple more minutes.
Okay.
And I'm really enjoying. Thank you for having me on. So it's a lot.
It is, and as you pointed out, we've had topics that we've had at least 3 shows worth of topics coming up. So I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm loving that because I'm like, ooh, I like repeat guests, and so I'm like, ooh, I'm loving that opportunity.
I do. I have a lot of information to share with the collective, and it took me a moment to get out of my own way to allow that to start flowing through. So I'm grateful you had me on your show.
And the next question I have, where I'm kind of sidestepping from everything we've been talking about, because it's a subject that is up and running right now, but not a lot of people want to get into because there's not a lot of proof behind it. And I imagine you know where I'm going with this, but you talked about being in the super soldier programs and everything. What was your awakening like? Can you share how you found out you were involved in this, or is that too
I can't,
emotional?
I can't confirm to. So my what woke me up to putting pieces together from my childhood, and mine is sexual ritual abuse as a child. The only thing memories that I have, like my first awakening to it, was when I had another traumatic event happen to me back in 2012 that unlocked memories of my. It was my stepfather was my handler, had done things to me, and really at that time the only thing I remember was being in a dark room with a VHS recorder and the red light flashing. So you can only imagine what was transpiring. Um, so 2018, I had a divine experience that landed me in the hospital, a psych ward actually, because I thought that my house was bugged. And people were following me, and I saw the Hat Man, like all sorts of just like crazy shit was coming online. And so the at the time after I had that awakening, it literally was like someone unplugged me and I could see reality for what it was. And of course, mind you, my background too had a lot to do with the alcoholism and addiction. So like all of it mixture together, just I had to do something. But I had an internal voice the whole time tell me, "You're not crazy. Just go through this, get calibrated, everything will be fine." And that's what really got me sober too, was that experience. But because the experience that I was going through, and that there was an internal voice that I know is creator source energy, in my higher spiritual team that was talking to me, it led me down the path to research things like walk-ins and research things like programs, MK Ultra, Super Soldier. My stepfather and also members of my family have very high ties to government agencies. And not just me, but other members in my family had other similar kind of off the wall experiences. And so that's kind of like I mentioned earlier, I have two businesses. My agency helps people in this area. So I help, a lot of people put on conferences, do their websites, and then that's where I just started gathering the information. So I don't know if it was Super Soldier that I was in. I very psychic and in tuned. I know that there were things that were happening to me. I have memory of things. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some memories that are wiped or suppressed that I haven't quite unlocked. But this is why I am very, very passionate about the information that's coming up to the surface, and why, like, the past couple of days, people have been reaching out like you are just talking about, why can't people see this? Because it exists. And outside of horrific, people on the world stage doing these horrific things, it starts in your community more than what people know. And if anyone follows you and has watched the Kathy O'Brien documentary, it was me watching her story at the very beginning of how her handler came about is similar to what my upbringing and experience was. And so I feel like my handler was involved in that. I may have gotten lucky. I was probably just used for creating nasty fucking material. Sorry for my pardon my French. So yeah, that's.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I did have that's in full transparency that I did have a reason for asking that. And so I know, like I said with you, I have no agendas, and it's not really an agenda, but I had a thought process, and I was like, I felt like I really couldn't go there unless I had that piece of information. So thank you for
You're welcome.
sharing that. And now for the interesting part of why I asked that is, do you feel like going through that trauma and that program possibilities, because I had the same thing. I have memories that are incomplete. I have the feeling I was there through it, but I can't like snap my fingers and go, yes, I was this, I was this. So I'm kind of in the same boat. It's not all there, but where I'm going with it is, do you think this and your work in the human design and your university and your other business was all done to help you bridge the metaphysical and practical and all the worlds into a vision that everyone can understand and maybe visualize easier because the frame of reference is there? You can relate to more people.
Yes, I can. I think a lot of us who have gone through experiences, whether we may fully remember them or not, I don't dismiss anything that really comes up inside. I will sit with it, process it. Um, and even if it is a horrific thing, I do feel on a higher spiritual level, there was some type of also guidance to kind of help you with that. Um, I'll give you an example. So I have a background of addiction, and I very I was involved in the system. They death jails and institutions when you're an alcoholic. And so I spent 18 years, state of Texas property, pretty much, not being able to vote. Okay. So I have not been able to, I cannot, didn't know what was happening politically. I couldn't contribute, so I'd never paid attention. And now that I know the truth about that whole black magic ritual thing that they do in that, I was like, oh, that was a horrific experience that I went through, but that probably saved me in a lot of things. Like there was a shielding. So I feel like, to answer your question, I feel like a lot of us outside of our experiences, it has awakened us in some level. It's either activated some type of superpower or it's going to help transpire into the future and what we're building. My mysticism and occult also came from my handler. He gave me my first tarot deck. He would literally do seances and have entities jump into my body. Okay. So I'm very mindful of like knowing what's me and what's not me. That skill set serves me now. It is how I had a conversation with my best friend the other day. I woke up in the morning, we were having a conversation, I got triggered. And I took a step back, and it wasn't anything that I didn't know, but I was like, you know what? This is they're MK Ultraing people. They're making what they're putting out in the collective, they're amplifying it. They're twisting people's emotions, they're twisting people's thoughts. Because I can recognize that there is an outside source or entity influencing me, I can recognize it in the moment because of previous experiences. If I didn't have those previous experiences, I don't think I would have that skill set, that muscle at play. So it's kind of
You know
taking
what?
what they've done to us and using it against them.
And what's interesting is, I think it was last year or the year before, I stopped pursuing trying to know what I had done and instead started focusing on what's the positives because I had done that. And I then started to branch out to the people who I knew in there and trusted in it and said, hey, we can you come on my show and we've shared your story, but do you mind sharing any positivity that came from it? And a lot of them were like, I don't know if there was any positivity that came from it. And I was like, that's fine. Not everybody may have had it. And some were like, well, does this count as positivity? And I was like, well, yeah. And they're like, okay, yeah, let's talk about that. And so it's kind of interesting that I notice when you get in the program communities, everybody gets so focused on this is what was done to me, this is what I'm a part of, and this is my story, but there's no after effect. And
Amen.
I
Sorry.
feel like now, with the awareness that I have, it's like I'm watching the never ending story
Yes.
where they're being destroyed by the nothing because they can't give a name to the positive side and see the imagination return and going, oh, this is what's positive and come of it. And don't get me wrong, I respect everyone where they're at, and I know everyone's where they need to be. It's just an awareness that I had, and it was interesting that you seem to be on that same wavelength, and that caught my attention because there's not many who are.
No, I've had conversations with my friends about this that are in that community, and I do see that happening. I feel like it's more of like how many badges can we put on this super soldier suit of how much they fucked us. And I think, look, I can have a suit full of badges too and trophies on the shelf. Point is, they fucked us. And I'm not going to dismiss your trauma or trump mine over yours. We need to address it. But at the same time, we need to start offering solutions. Humanity needs solutions right now. And I feel like a lot of us, and I know in my case here, I am here to help humanity. That is why I structured my business the way that it is to help the next person to get to their, where they need to be. And that's just a small portion of the pie. I think a lot of us are going to have to step into that higher position pretty shortly now that things are coming up to the surface, because we're here to help the collective. And I see a lot of people still getting stuck in that, it's that shadow realm.
Yeah.
It's but we do need more solutions.
Well, and what I found interesting is a lot of people, will say, oh, I did this, this, and this in the programs, and now I am doing this. And I'm like, well, that's what is the cool part, is the after, where it's like, I know a few who made the choice like I did to go, hey, we're just sitting here. We have all this stuff that they put into us and taught us. Why can't we use it and do something for ourselves? And it wasn't like I didn't have the feeling like I needed to redeem myself for stuff that had been done. But I was like, what if we were to turn our altars on the creators? And we know where a lot of these facilities are, where they're taking kids and doing stuff. What if we went in there and kicked some major ass and started pulling them out and saving who we could save? And they were like, yeah, I've started doing that too, and started thinking about that too. And it's like, yeah, and it's interesting to me how the creators are like now having to face up and go, we created these guys and now they're turning on us and we don't have a defense against them because they trained us too well.
Yeah. Um yeah, needs to be organized. I think that we have there's a lot of tools that a lot of us are holding, and they're not being utilized, just like you said. So
Yeah. And I think, talking about the never ending story, the last Matrix movie was like a huge eye opening to me, because the whole series has been about the construct and program of there's one, and it was the guy. All of
mm-hmm,
a suddenly, the last movie was there's the one, but it's not the guy, it's the girl.
mm-hmm,
And she woke him up and reminded him who he was, and was the catalyst that broke and that the agents couldn't beat. And so it was like, and then they both fly off at the end. And it's like, yeah, the one is not a one anymore. The one is a two, which means it can be a three, it can be a four. We
mm-hmm.
all can be the one now. That is now in our awareness thanks to this movie. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people missed that.
And it's a lot, just Overall, it's a lot. But I am seeing people in the community where that awareness is starting to come up to play, or they're looking for implant, talking about solutions, bringing more solutions to the table. They want us, we need to get organized, to be honest. They want us disorganized. And I think even if you have suppressed memories come up, or whatever trauma that you endured outside of you getting on a stage or a podcast and talking about that, it's a whole nother different level to actually step into that and embody it. Um,
Yeah, it
that's
is.
that's a different thing. That's a different conversation for a lot of
Yeah,
people.
because that's opening a box that, as people will say, I'm not going to do that because, I'm putting this on me. Yeah, when you make that declaration of this is what I'm doing with my gift, you can imagine you're having like several more of those put on you. And it's like you got to be very careful and very cautious how you present yourself and what you're doing, because as much as the world has taught us, we are sovereign beings, we are powerful in our own right, we are being watched.
Sabrina Wallace, man, I love Sabrina Wallace. I'm like, yeah, they're already. I I had gotten sick not that long ago, and I know it has everything to do with the spraying. And I had come across the information about cloud dust, which is tiny little microchips that are in dust that they spray in the sky. And so the morning that I woke up not feeling good, I told them inside, I do not consent to you motherfuckers monitoring me. And I think outside of, what we can do, it is continually reminding them of that. And then also doing the little things that we can take our sovereignty back. Because that's what they don't like at the end of the day. And that, again, is just going back through our thoughts, our mind, our emotions, how we are reacting to things, and what are we going to do about the situation at hand? Because when things come to light, that's especially here in the United States, that's like 98% of people who are ruling just the United States. And I had the thought of this: if they are public servants, why have we not fired them?
Yeah.
Like, why are we waiting for them to do something? They work for us. And that is the illusion that needs to be smashed too. Like, these people work for us ultimately. I mean, I can't say anything. I've exited the system. Um, I don't vote or anything like that. I don't contribute to any of these people, but that's just an example of little things that you
Well,
can do.
but you contribute through energy. You don't have to vote. That's not the only way to contribute.
Right.
Your quote value is in now thoughts and awarenesses and energy, where yeah, that's equal to, being able to cast a vote, or, but what I find interesting, and I know we're getting close to the end of the show, so I'm going to wrap it up with this, is they don't really talk about when America was, quote, founded. It was a tiny amount of people who overthrew an empire, if you think about it in that way. There were more loyalists on the colonies than there were patriots, but yet somehow we were able to turn the tide, get awareness. Other, friends came and said, yes, we'll support this. And then all of a sudden, we proved ourselves, and they were like, yeah, we'll back you. And we toppled an empire, so to speak.
Yeah, and
Well,
got pissed off that they
they
raised
don't,
taxes on tea.
yeah, they don't want us to remember that, because it shows we don't need mass consciousness behind us. A few can do it. And so, like you're saying, that's why they want to keep us divided and separate, is because you get a small handful together, and a lot of great magic can come from that they can't stop.
One of my favorite things to do is deep dive in history and all history, like what they tell us, alternative, and there's a common theme that I see regardless of the time period. One, they fear us being united. Okay, that is one of their biggest fears. And when we do unite, there's massive change that happens. And if we don't unite, then it's the other thing that I witness. It's always the little people that get fucked. We're the ones that get trapped in whatever war that they want to start. Um, whatever it is, it's always the little people. And so I am here to help the people in any which way I can that's at my capacity. And so that we can create big change, because again, like what's coming up to the surface is just a small piece of the pie, and it's serious. And I think that outside of everyone, stepping into a leadership role, that's it's gonna become more and more apparent. Um, but that's what we came here for
Right.
at the end of the day.
And with the few minutes that are left, how about we spend it with you sharing how can people find Rise University, and also find the Unity Works agency?
So, I think you shared my links
I
in
did.
on the description, but you guys can go to Rise, RISE, Inner, INNERVERSITY. It's like university, but interversity. .com, and that will take you to like my link tree, and it'll give you a couple of different options. You can sign up to the newsletter list. If you sign up to the newsletter list, that will give you guys access to the root solution masterclass that I was talking about. If you want to, it's a 3-part training. It is jam packed with information to help you. A little introduction to how I teach. Outside of that, it's Rise University all across every platform out there. I'm more active on Jennifer Nunez and UNEZ Facebook page, my personal page. I'm more active on that one on Facebook, but overall, you guys can find me just by searching Rise University. I do have a YouTube channel. I have a podcast on Spotify. I'm trying to think. I was all over the place at the very beginning. So I've got writings if you guys want to dive into that. Unity Works Agency. I am currently redesigning the website. To be honest, I've never really had a social media platform for that, even though I deal with it. It's all been done by referral only. But if you are someone who needs help in building a website, even if you're looking at different platforms to host your website on, we offer very affordable solutions. It's another thing that drives me crazy when you do have an online business. As you well know, Michael, all of these little things that you have to utilize have a charge to it. So,
Oh yeah.
we have given some affordable solutions for people on hosting websites. If you're looking for assistance, just find me and reach out and send me a message. I would love to help you. Um, but yeah, that's where you can find me. So
Very cool. And so I want to end with a message for you, Jen. And that is, oh man, this is going to be a hard one because of all we talked about. It's like, yeah, I'm like, wow. My heart and the heart of my shows to you. Thank you for what you're doing for humanity. It's seen, felt, heard, and appreciated.
thank you for that. I feel that. Thank you very much. It's an honor. So I know it's not easy, and thank you for doing everything that you're doing. It's much needed.
Yes, thank you. And I know we talked about having more shows and topics that we could do, and I would love to have you back on. And as many shows as you want to do, I would love to, dive into things with you and keep sharing this out. And I also am aware that as we know as podcast hosts, not everybody is, you know, just conversation. Some have agendas, which is fine for their platform. So thank you for trusting me and coming on, and because I know we had never spoke before, and so I really appreciate that you trusted me, and we were like talking offline about how we were excited for this and getting into this, the group, the mindset for this, and I just want to thank you for trusting me.
Oh, you've got very good energy, Michael. So it was an honor for you to reach out, and it's like we had mentioned earlier, divine timing. I had been getting the message to get back online, start sharing my story. And when you reached out, I was like, okay, here we go. So thank you for having me. It was an honor, and I hope your audience enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. I think we got a lot of topics to talk about.
Oh yeah, and I love the fact we got all our topics in tonight, and so there you go. It's
In a
amazing.
in a good time frame too. So
Yeah, and we're ending with laughter, so that's even better.
we need more laughter. Archons hate laughter, guys.
Well, you heard it there. And with that, I'm going to say thank you to everyone who is in the chat room and to everyone who's going to be watching the replays and tuned in for the live. And thank you again to Jen for coming on and sharing her story and experiences. I know from my personal experience, some of them are hard to share. So thank you for trusting us with that. And blessings to you and blessings to everyone. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you on the next episode. Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone. Oh, I'm loving social media right now. I'm like, why is the outro not kicking in? We're going to try it again. This is the first time I've had the intro and outro glitch. So
We're coming
fingers
into
crossed.
Mercury retrograde.
That's what I'm going to blame it on. All right, so here we go. We're going to try the outro again, and have a wonderful night, everyone. Keep the laughter.